So in this video I'm going to be analysing the tactical changes that Solskjaer made both in and out of possession, why Unai Emery's side was so good defensively, the defensive problems that United had, the individual players from Villarreal who really impressed me in this game, what Solskjaer should have done differently to break down Villarreal earlier in this game, and at the end I'll be breaking down Ronaldo's match-winning goal. But before that, for cheap good quality football jerseys, retro jerseys and tracksuits, go over to www.jerseyfifa.com, a link will be left in the description, and use code ATLANTISFOOTBALL for 5% off. So going into this game, Villarreal were defending in a narrow 4-4-2 shape, which we would expect, and Solskjaer actually changed up his possession shape. In the 4-2-3-1 system, we often see United push into a 2-4-3-1, with Solskjaer usually using a deep double pivot of McTominay and Fred, but in this game he used Pogba and McTominay and asked Pogba to push up between the lines, with Fernandes on the right side, creating a sort of advanced double pivot, with McTominay the only holding player in midfield. To compensate for this, we saw the fullbacks, Telles and Dalot sit a lot deeper than they usually do. We often see the fullbacks stretching a bit wider, but I think Solskjaer wanted them deeper initially to be able to give United a base to circulate the ball around Villarreal's front two, and even calls the wide midfielders, Emery on one side and Trigueros on the other, to push up to close down the fullbacks, and hoping that would leave space either side of the two central midfielders for Pogba and Fernandes to drift into it and receive the ball. But Emery's side countered this very well. Instead of charging out to the fullbacks when they received the ball, the wide midfielders shuttled across, being aware to close off the passing lanes in behind them, so this space didn't materialise. And also Villarreal's backline was pushing high up the pitch, even though they weren't really pressing United very aggressively, but it significantly reduced the space between the midfield and defensive lines, which stopped Pogba and Fernandes being able to drop into space and receive the ball, and therefore United couldn't get in behind Villarreal's midfield. This high line out of possession to vertically compress the space between the lines was used by both PSG and Manchester City in their game on Tuesday, so if you want to check that out, I'll leave it linked in the description, as I did do a full tactical breakdown on that video. Without the ball, Solskjaer also made a slight tactical change. Usually we see United pressing a 4-2-3-1, which becomes a 4-4-2 when Fernandes pushes up alongside the centre forward, but in this game Solskjaer instructed Pogba to push up alongside Fernandes, leaving McTominay as the only player in that deeper midfield position, and this was done in order to allow United to get man-to-man to Parejo and Capoue. Now United were largely successful in pressing Villarreal in the final third, but due to Diego Dalot retaining a deeper position to pick up Danjuma, who would drift out to that left side, when Pau Torres was on the ball and Greenwood would move to press him, this would leave Alberto Moreno open in space, and if the ball was shifted out to him, this would completely bypass United's press and leave their front four behind the ball and massive amounts of space either side of McTominay. And credit to Villarreal, they did manage to take advantage of this, as in possession they would use a 2-4-2-2 kind of shape, with Trigueros and Emery playing alternate roles from the flanks. Trigueros would move infield in behind Pogba, taking up a central position, with Pogba moving higher up the pitch. This left massive space for Trigueros to flow into, and Emery would hold his width on the right side, very advanced, playing more as a natural winger, while Danjuma would sit in the front two when Villarreal dropped into their 4-4-2 out of possession. In possession he would drift over to the left side, and he was excellent in the first half, exploiting Dalot on a number of occasions, creating the first half opportunity for Alcacer, which forced De Gea into a world-class save, cutting inside onto his right foot and forcing De Gea into another elite save, and he got the assist for Alcacer's goal, and this goal perfectly summed up the problems that United had and how Villarreal exploited them. United's backline needs to either push higher up the pitch or instruct the midfield line to drop deeper. As you can see here, there's massive amounts of space in behind McTominay for Trigueros just to move into, and Parejo, who was excellent all game at playing those incisive passes into players between the lines, finds Trigueros, and Villarreal now have 4 against 3, moving into United's defensive third. But within United's backline there are a number of individual mistakes. Dalot needs to be narrower to cut off that pass inside of him to Danjuma, and Lindelof is completely ball watching. He needs to get across the front post to cut off that ball, as he allows Alcacer to get in front of him, and the ball across from Danjuma is very good. Alcacer knocks it into the net and Villarreal have the lead. Villarreal did have some excellent individual performances throughout this game. Danjuma was probably the man of the match, whilst Trigueros, Parejo and Juan Foyth all had excellent games as well. Diego Dalot struggled throughout the game, making a number of positional errors, allowing his players to run off of him, and in one-on-one situations he was beaten far too easily. Danjuma in the first half did it a couple of times. In the second half, Moy Gomez was running at him and he was allowed to simply cut in on his right foot and get a shot away. Dalot wasn't getting tight enough to his man, he was very passive, and that really highlights why United did need a right back in the summer. They have Wan-Bissaka, who's excellent defensively, but doesn't have the attacking output that United need, specifically in games like this where they need to break down a deep defensive unit and the space is out wide, and I'll come on to what I would have done differently if I was Solskjaer. But with Dalot at right back, even though he probably is an attacking improvement on Wan-Bissaka, he's too much of a defensive liability, as his game showed. If he comes up against a winger who has the ability to dribble past players, he really does struggle, as he did in this game. I will critique Solskjaer and explain what I would have done differently, but to be fair to him, the personnel he selected for this 4-2-3-1 shape is what I would have gone with as well. Playing Pogba alongside McTominay instead of Fred or Matic was definitely needed, and Pogba showed his ability to progress the ball into the final third in the second half. He went past Parejo in the middle third and played a lovely ball into Ronaldo that almost set him free in the box, and that showed the difference between a player like Pogba in that deeper midfield role and McTominay and Fred. But it was United's patterns of play when they had possession which really let them down and made it easy for Villarreal to defend against them. So what exactly would I have done differently in possession? Well, I would have pushed the fullbacks further forward, and I would have done this because Villarreal were using a 4-4-2 with a narrow 4-man midfield, and what you want to do against this kind of defensive shape is force the wide midfielders backwards and push the side back into either a back 5 or a back 6. And the way you do this is by pushing the fullbacks further forward, because once the fullbacks start to motor forward down the flanks, providing the width, the wide midfielders have a decision to make. Either they sit narrow alongside their central midfielder, or they leave the space open on the flank for the fullback. Now, if Emery and Trigueros had stayed narrow to close off the space next to the central midfielders, United could have circulated the ball quickly and got 2v1 situations on the flanks, with the wide attackers holding their width and the fullbacks also overlapping. But it did seem like Villarreal's wide midfielders were prepared to follow the fullbacks when they pushed forward, so what I would presume would have happened is that when the United fullbacks had pushed forward, the wide midfielders would have dropped back with them, and this would have created a back 5 or a back 6 at times. Firstly, what this would have done is it would have allowed United to progress the ball into the Villarreal defensive third quicker, because what they should have been doing is having the centre-backs play a pass into McTominay, draw the two centre-forwards inward and bounce it out to the other centre-back and have them move into the space vacated by the wide midfielder and the centre-forward on that side. And in this graphic, that would be Varane on the left side, moving into the space showed by that red rectangle. From here, Pogba and Fernandes are going to have more space in the half spaces, and most likely Villarreal's backline are going to be forced to drop slightly deeper into their own defensive third because of the lack of pressure on the ball in their own half. In United's build-up phase and in the middle third, Villarreal was still playing a very high line, and I think United could have done a lot more to exploit the space by having players like Greenwood and Sancho making more darting runs diagonally in behind their fullback to exploit the space. We saw it a few times with a few Pogba passes over the top, but I don't think Solskjaer's side did that enough throughout the whole game. But United did eventually get the winner in the last minute of stoppage time. They had both Cavani and Ronaldo playing as a front two, and Cavani does excellently down the left side to wrestle with the Villarreal defender to get the ball to Bruno Fernandes, who plays it into Fred, and Fred puts in a great first time cross, and you can see Ronaldo in the middle, and rather than being positioned centrally in the box where he'd have to compete with Pau Torres or Albiol, he drifts round the back, gets onto Estupinan and he wins a header, puts it back across goal, and it falls back for Ronaldo and he finishes it into the net, giving Manchester United the winner in the 94th minute. So overall, I think you'd be lying if you said that Solskjaer wasn't fortunate in this game. Telles' equaliser was from his own individual brilliance with a fantastic volley from the edge of the box, and Ronaldo's winner came in the 94th minute, but throughout the game, Villarreal had more clear-cut chances than United, and certainly going into half-time, United were lucky not to be going in a goal down, and they do have De Gea to thank for that, who's been in excellent form, making a number of great saves. The two best came from Danjuma and Alcacer, and throughout the game we constantly saw United getting opened up through the centre of the pitch, with their backline dropping too deep, and therefore the whole system isn't vertically compact, and that along with the attacking patterns down the flanks, where the fullbacks are very static in the attacking third. They are both things that Solskjaer has to sort out, because United can't keep relying on individual brilliance to win them games. Otherwise, what happened at Aston Villa will happen again in the next few games, and you'll start to see not only United slipping away in the Premier League title race, but even if they do get out of the Champions League group, you could easily see them going out if they keep showcasing these recurring issues. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, remember to subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, give the video a like, go to the description to check out some of my other Manchester United videos as well, put your thoughts in the comments section below, and follow me on Twitter and Instagram for more content as well.